for bringing that to our attention. That's how change gets made. So certainly, we have been, that's why we also put English and Spanish, because we want to make sure that the most diversity of our state has access. So as we're, going through the stickers and having to eventually change them and keep updating them, we will absolutely make sure that they are large enough for everybody to see it, and probably make sure that the gas station pumps, I'm assuming, not that necessarily people are driving that need Braille, but that we look through, I hope not, as I say that out loud, but making sure that you're absolutely right. Because also, too, we have the state of Florida has a very, elderly communities, and to make sure that they too can easily visually see it. So I will definitely bring that back to our marketing department and to our consumer areas. Oh, Amy's awesome.
Good afternoon.
Hi.
How are you? I own Townsend. I have an observation to make and then a question. The observation is, if you were a male county agricultural commissioner, there wouldn't have been an issue about your picture being on it. So I would like to...
Republican.
Right. What's your position on the possibility of a constitutional amendment for an independent redistricting commission, given that Florida's been identified as a gerrymandered state by the NDRC, and that the Florida legislature, as you mentioned earlier, does not have a very good history of abiding by the voters' wishes?
You're right, and that's also why fair districts is in our Constitution, and that's why we saw the last time around when they did not abide by the Constitution, there were all those challenges. But I'm always going to support an opportunity for more voices to be heard, and so that is going to be the solution to make sure that we stop the gerrymandering in our state, and I will be supportive of it.
Hello, David Lavery. I want to ask you about citrus greening. We turned the corner, and are we able to save our citrus industry?
It has been the most heartbreaking thing that I have seen as Commissioner of Agriculture. That we started off with for years and decades and generations, 203 million boxes across our state that was being produced. We're down to 71 million. That is a tremendous, tremendous impact. People come and talk about Florida, they talk about three things. They talk about our beaches, they talk about our citrus, and they talk about the little mouse. And the fact that one of the three has been so decimated, and because of citrus greening and now hurricanes, and but we are seeing improvements. I was at Citrus Mutual last week. There was higher in turnout in the conference than in years past. There is enthusiasm, there is excitement, and now we're starting at what's called craft. Giving opportunities for our citrus growers to try different types of experimental treatments on their land. So we are seeing progress. And everything that I am doing, like I said, back in Israel, we met with citrus companies that were working on citrus greening, not only for detection purposes, but also for remediation purposes.
Carl Zalanka. I know we're all concerned with the environment. But most people don't realize that Florida is one of the largest cattle producing states in the country. How can you balance the future of the cattle industry versus the environmental impact of cow farts?
I can't prevent a cow from farting. It is a great question, because cattle is, I was at the Cattlemen's Association this week too, and the amount of impact that cattle has on our economy is tremendous. We are the second largest cattle producers in the country. So it is a balance. But also they are, if you see any of the pictures from any of those ranches, they also are the best conservations of our land too. And they are part of the reason why we have such beautiful agriculture here in the state of Florida. So it is a balance, and it's finding other things that are impacting our environment. I have at the energy office, I've also tasked my director of energy to come up with an entire plan. If you had to close your eyes and create an entire wish list of how to make the state of Florida more energy efficient, what would it look like? And so we are in the process of doing that. Again, I harp back onto the impact that hemp is going to have in our state. Hemp is not only going to be biodegradable, replace our concrete, our styrofoam, our plastics, but it also is going to clean our waterways. So it's going to be a balance between the two, preserving agriculture, but also protecting the environment.
Good afternoon, Commissioner Betsy Havner. Since Joe didn't ask, I will. My son has metastasized colon cancer, and I have a keen personal interest in the medical marijuana issue. I know you started the task force, but what is your timeline for fully implementing the overwhelming intention of the voters?
So a couple things. My task force, which has physicians and has patients on there and license holders and across the board. So the goal of that program is to tour the entire state, come up with, all right, where are the good, the bad, the ugly of the medical marijuana program, and then come up with a comprehensive plan and submit that to the legislature for them to pass. Most people don't know, I don't actually oversee medical marijuana department. Medical marijuana is actually overseen by the Department of Health. So we are going to be a thorn in their side every step along the way, because my mother just too, I found out during the recount that she had cancer and was having to have an emergency surgery and go through chemo and radiation afterwards. So this is personal to me too, to make sure that patients not only have access, but affordable access to medical marijuana. So we are going to create this task force to get input and to make sure we get into the department and work as much as we can with the new Surgeon General and the Governor to really push through. I think you're going to see a change. When you saw a change in Governor, you'll see a change in this program as well.
Hi, Commissioner Albert Fox. Commissioner, your fellow agriculture commissioners from Alabama, Mississippi, Texas, Louisiana, all have led trade missions to Cuba, and they all support the removal of the United States embargo of Cuba. Your predecessor's position was pathetic. What is your position?
Cuba is a touchy subject here in Florida. As we know that, I'm born and raised in Miami. And so we have to, the agricultural relationship between Cuba is essential. We need to make sure that we are doing everything possible to advance agriculture and to utilize, that they've been suffering. The people of Cuba, the people that are living there are suffering. And we need to create some type of relationship with Cuba for agriculture production and for exports and imports, and to teach Cuba as well new technologies. They are stuck in an age-long past. But we also need to make sure that the people of Cuba are free. And make sure that they are not under a dictatorship and that they have the same rights and freedoms. So I am, very eager to work on the Cuba policy. I'm very eager to have a relationship with Cuba, but I also need to make sure that the people of Cuba that are living there are not being tortured and, have freedoms that we don't see. But again, this is something that we need to work on as a state and as a country.
Commissioner John Titi, I would like to know something like what the state can do to help all of us in this room. That is robocalls.
Yes, and I experience it too. So we do oversee a lot of the do not call list, not so much the robocalling. The robocalling and a lot of that stuff is by FCC. But what just happened is that they have now just changed their policy to allow the cell phone companies to start actually creating and regulating that as well. And so we already are being very proactive, talking to the cell phone companies, making sure, and the other things that we did and trying to put through legislation is increase the penalties for selling of the lists, for people that are violating any of the communications that are prohibited. So we are going to be beefing up that component of it, because I have an entire list of phone calls that have been blocked on my phone. It is something not only aggravating, they call in the mornings, they call during dinners. So our consumer services, we created a director, an assistant commissioner of consumer affairs to focus on some of these issues and to make sure that we are tackling this, because I know it is a huge problem. Personally feel it, but we're on it. We're working.
My name is Sally Cruz. You mentioned two things that the voters passed. One of them was the rights the felon to vote after they've completed, and the other one was medical marijuana. But when it gets to Tallahassee, suddenly what I voted down on has just watered down and it holds up. Do voters have any rights to keep the politicians from watering down what we voted for?
Kick them out of office. Yeah. The reality is that you're right. It's frustrating. It is absolutely frustrating. I mean, I saw what they were doing to Amendment 4 implementation. I obviously saw what they did to medical marijuana, class size, Amendment 1 when it came to land conservation and Everglades money. I mean, I saw it and we see it all the time. So the best check on any politician is the ballot box. Yes, and fair districts.
Hello, Commissioner Betty Jo Tompkins. We know that in this state, the country, and the world, the use of plastic bags has gotten out of control. We're using $1 trillion a year. National Geographic says within 30 years there'll be more plastic in the ocean than fish. Now, I know you're supportive of hemp. However, that's going to take years to develop. What can we do as an initiative to make sure that people cut down? We have a program called the 4 Bs, bad, bad, better, best. Bad is plastic bags in the vegetable department. Bad is plastic bags at the front of the store. Better is paper, and best is always bringing reusable. I know what you want to do. Tell us how you're going to get it done.
You're right. I mean, I actually saw a report last week at the amount of plastic that we ingest in our bodies every single year. I think they said the size of a credit card is what actually gets put into your body from all the different types of plastic that between straws, between the plastic bags. So a lot of it is education. And what's interesting, the children in the classrooms, when you talk to the kids in the classroom about environmental issues and you talk to them about the plastic issues, they come home and they demand that their parents change things, recycling bins. And so a lot of it is education in the classroom to really teach them to be environmentally savvy and force their parents to be environmentally savvy. So that's one component, and we are going to be moving on hemp very fast because I do believe that hemp is going to replace all of that. And it's going to replace your plastic, it's going to replace your paper, and the ones you're bringing in there. It's all going to be hemp, in my world and my vision.
Don Cruz.
Did you start your own timer?
Yeah, well, Don Cruz. Hillsborough County has gone blue, and the state of Florida is going more blue. The Democratic Party has recognized you, being the top elected official in the state of Florida, as the party's leader. Do you recognize yourself as the head of the Democratic Party? And if not, who do you recognize as the head of the state of Florida Democratic Party?
We do have a party chair and executive director, but no, when I decided to run for Commissioner of Agriculture, I did not envision being the only one. I envisioned Senator Nelson making it past the finish line. I imagined the rest of the tickets with me. So I did not go into the 2018 election expecting to be the only one. But that's the reality of the situation. And so I take that very serious. And I also take that anything that comes out of my mouth is going to be viewed, whether I think so or not, as the voice of the Democratic Party. And so I take that seriously. I make sure that I'm listening to the people. And listen to the people on all sides, and making sure that I'm the voice of the party, and making sure that I'm steering the party in the right direction. And so I do see myself as the head of the party, as our state bearer of the Democratic Party. I hope that I'm not the only one in the next election cycle. I love some friends up in Tallahassee, but we have a lot of work to do, and looking forward to working with the Democratic Party and the MPAs and the Republicans. As I've also said, is that as a member of the cabinet, it's state before party. And we need to see more of that in DC, because that is the only way that anything is going to get accomplished, is we put aside the partisan politics and look at policy.
We have time for about 2 more questions. We've tried to get all around today. Is there anybody else that has one? Oh, goodness, this is going to be a good one. Miss Peggy.
I have to take exception to one thing you've said, is trade with Cuba. I went on the first official trip 2 years ago. I went back for the dedication of the Jose Marti statue. If there's any torture, is what this country is doing to Cuba. They're our nearest neighbor. They have made such strides. The Cuban people have worked so hard to come as far as they have. I don't know how many know that they have a cancer vaccine, that they're lung cancer vaccine they're working on with the Moffitt Hospital. My brother died of lung cancer, and it would have been wonderful if we'd been able to do something. And also medical marijuana. Yes, my question is, what do you think that the state of Florida, do you think they're going to continue this embargo, which I think hurts the state, its trade, and so I would like to see something happen there.
So as far as the embargo from the state of Florida, I unfortunately have no actual control over that. That's unfortunate. But I do agree that there's been a lot of change in Cuba. 100% agree. And so I have absolute complete intentions to doing my homework, to doing my research, and to come up with a policy that is going to make it beneficial for our state and for our citizens and for the people that are living here in our state and in Cuba, and working towards having that open dialogue. That is a goal and a mission, and I don't see otherwise. So I am absolutely going to be at the forefront of those conversations to make sure that we are doing everything we can to protect our state, and that is part of it is promoting agriculture. And so Cuba is the closest, country to us, and I'm definitely looking forward to hearing from the people of Cuba and the people in our state who are involved in those conversations, and hopefully be an active member of those conversations moving forward.
Thank you. We are going to have one more question for the sake of the Garfield Committee. It looks like they're already deliberating, so hopefully, Kathy, you get consideration in this. And then, Commissioner, if you have a closing statement of anything we haven't covered today or anything you'd like to leave us with, we'll end with that.
Kathy Betancourt, and this isn't a winner, this is a policy question. Thank you again for being here. You will cover a great number of subjects as a member of the cabinet. What subject area, as a cabinet member, as a cabinet agency, do you find the easiest to work with your colleagues? And what subject matter do you differ the most? And do you feel you have a real challenge that you're going to bring your brothers along with you on the issue?
I think the easiest one is our conservation lands. Whenever there are issues that are being brought to the state of Florida, where we do land swaps and utilizing some of our Forever Florida dollars to purchase for conservation easements, that is the easiest. We all agree on how we have to protect our state. That is the easiest. The most difficult that I have found is clemency. And clemency, as a member of the cabinet, is on clemency, and it goes back to Amendment 4. Because what we have seen is, we typically are in agreement on when we're going to pardon somebody. You haven't seen any divisive votes on the pardoning. Where you've seen the differences is that the governor and the rest of the cabinet have required that if you still have fines and court costs and fees, they're still requiring those individuals to pay them before they get their rights back. I have said in each of as I vote, I agree with the pardon, disagree and object to the condition. And so I don't win that battle, but that is the biggest battle that we have seen on the board.
Thank you. So if you do have anything else that you wanted, we've covered a myriad of subjects today, great range of questions. We appreciate your time. I know we need to try and get you out in just a few minutes here with the tight schedule that you've got, but is there anything you'd like to leave us with?
Sure. Most people, as I was campaigning, didn't know what the Commissioner of Agriculture did, and still don't. They know that they see the names and now pictures on the gas station pumps. They know that the commissioner deals with agriculture and the land and the cattle and the citrus, but don't understand the breadth and the depth of this position. That we have 4,100 employees, I got a few in here, so I want to thank them for being here, across the entire state. And so we don't just deal with agriculture, we deal with all of our consumer services, we deal with the concealed weapons, we deal with the energy office, school nutrition program. So the fact that it is such a tremendous position that impacts people's lives every single day. There's no other position in the entire country that is going to impact people's lives like the Commissioner of Agriculture in the state of Florida. From the food that you eat, the gas that you have in there, to the food stores, to if you go to the gyms, the do not call list and robocalls, to nonprofit organizations and travel agents, is a tremendous position. And what people also asked, how did you make it across the finish line? How are you different? And I said, well, one, I talked about issues that transcended partisan politics. We talked about water, we talked about weed, we talked about weapons. But more importantly, I gave suburban Florida a reason to vote for Commissioner of Agriculture, to explain to why this needs to be a partnership between agriculture and the business community, and why suburban Florida understands as a member of the cabinet and deals with such a myriad of issues across our state, and that's why you should care who the person is that's sitting in this position. So it has been a tremendous, I know that I won by 6,753 votes. Some of it, thank you to Hillsborough County. And every single day, I am so grateful for given this opportunity, that during the recounts, I heard from a lot of you over the course of those days, during the recount and then the recount, to finally make it across the finish line. And I know that that election could have gone the other way at any time. And so knowing that I've been given and blessed with this opportunity, every single day I wake up with a mission: how do I make the state of Florida better? How do I protect our consumers? How do I promote agriculture? How do I make sure that we're no longer #1 in consumer fraud in the entire country? And so again, I am so thankful to so many of you that were there helping with the recount. And while sometimes I got to put on the partisan hat sometimes, but the policies that you are going to see from my administration are nonpartisan. They are what is in the best interest of the state of Florida, because that is what you all demand and expect from me. So thank you for your time today.
We do, is the Garfield ready?